First, thank you so much, Mr. Chabot, for making time for this interview.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. First, would you like to introduce yourself to Epoch Times readers?
Sure. My name is Andre Chabot, and I'm running to be the next mayor of Calgary. I've been on council for almost 13 years now, so I have more experience than all of the other candidates combined, and I think experience is going to be really important for the next 4 years. I come from the construction industry where I spent 10 years, and then I went into electronics, and I did that for 18 years. I did everything from shipping and receiving all the way to running a company, and I'm a fourth generation born and raised Western Canadian, so I truly understand the value of Western hospitality, and I believe that it's time to put our city back on the map. The wind has been blowing through the city of Calgary, and the city of Calgary should be creating the wind. So I think it's time that we put Calgary back on the map as far as being a city that's welcoming and is innovative, and it promotes new businesses and our entrepreneurial spirit.
Mm-hmm. So you just mentioned you have been on the city council for 13 years.
Yes.
So this year, what prompted you to run for the mayor instead of continue to be a council member?
After the first 2 terms, when Dave Broncagna announced that he didn't want to run for mayor anymore, I considered running then. But because my good friend Rick McIver decided he was going to put his hat in the ring, I didn't want to split the right-wing conservative vote on council, so I let Rick run with it. And then when Nenshi won, I thought, well, you know what? The people have spoken. This is who they want as our mayor, and I'm going to try and work with the man. After serving with him for 7 years, I thought, it's time for somebody different. Like Nenshi brought some good ideas when he first came onto council, but I think he's become bigger than the job. And so I don't think any one person should be bigger than the job. And the reason I'm running for mayor is for the same reason I decided to run for councillor. I think I can do better than our current mayor. And that's the only reason I ran for councillor, is because I thought I could do better than that councillor of the day. And that's why I ran for councillor. That's why I'm running for mayor.
I see. Very good. Very good. Now, so if you become elected,
yes.
What plan do you have to revitalize the economy in Calgary and address the unemployment issue?
So creating jobs obviously is a critical piece right now in our current economic situation, but it goes beyond just creating jobs. It's also about balancing needs of Calgarians with the financial resources that we have. We have limited resources for financing. The only real opportunity we have is by growing our economy, which will create new tax dollars without having to raise tax dollars, and becoming more efficient as a corporation. Right now, we're too focused on using property tax dollars for capital projects, when property tax dollars should be predominantly used for operations. But creating jobs is so important. Things like a new arena would certainly be beneficial to the city of Calgary. I know Calgary Sports and Entertainment have said they're done, they're not at the table anymore, but that doesn't mean the idea of a rink needs to be killed. I think a new arena would help to stimulate new development and would also create a ton of jobs. But why stop there? Why stop at just a new arena? We need a new football stadium. How do we finance these things is the next question that tends to come up. And I think because Calgary Sports and Entertainment have said no, then maybe we should reach out to financial institutions, the private sector, create a committee of government representatives, people in the financial sector, as well as individuals, well-to-do individuals, to look at how we could actually build new facilities without using property tax dollars and actually own a rink that we could then control.
Right now, the business owners are so worried about the amount of tax they have to pay.
Yes.
What would you say to these owners?
So this is something we've been looking at for some time, and I introduced a motion a while back when we looked at the big shift from the downtown core to the outlying areas. And I said, if we're going to truly offer a phased-in approach, then it should be something that's phased in over a longer period of time. What I suggested at the time was a tax deferral account to put in money in the account as the taxes shifted to the outlying areas, and then as the burden shifts back to the downtown, use that differential to pay down that loan. So it would have lessened the burden, at least initially, so the businesses could actually stay in business.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the greatest solution would be to work with the provincial government through the Modernized Municipal Government Act, as well as the city charter, to look at ways that we can actually change the taxation system. Right now, the zero-based review, the revenue neutral calculation system doesn't work well when there's a huge shift from one sector to the other. And there is a way of actually creating subclasses whereby we can actually allocate dollars to those particular industries so that we don't get this huge shift from one sector to the other. So just some of my suggestions.
So that sounds like it's going to be a fundamental change to the system.
Absolutely, and it's not something that we can do independently. That's why I've been working for the last 12 years to establish relationships with other orders of government, representatives from every party, because you just never know who's going to be in power when. So it's important to maintain relationships, and this doesn't apply just to other orders of government. Same thing applies with City Council. If you don't have a good relationship with council members, it's going to be hard to get anything that you want done. You need to have a relationship where people will actually listen to what you have to say so that you can actually influence their vote. Ultimately, the mayor's position should be one of leadership and influence, and that comes with respect. And so responsibility, respect, experience, these are three pillars of what I bring to the office.
The city is trying to bring Amazon to the city,
Yes.
and similarly, the similar idea is, to develop the trade relations with China. But the China has the worst record of human rights, and it uses different means to, such as the Confucius Institute and trade to exert its influence
Right.
on its trading partners, including all levels of government. But many Chinese, we come here because of its freedom
Right.
and democracy.
Yes.
And as Calgary continues to develop its trade relations with China, how would you, if you were elected, to balance between the economic development and human rights?
So as council members, we've already actually addressed this. We have an ethical procurement policy. So any dealings with the City of Calgary, we would look for companies that would actually adhere to those ethical procurement policies, which is goes against the human rights violations that occur in some countries and some institutions, more so than just the country itself. Even the country, even though there may be some human rights violations that occur within certain employers, that doesn't mean it's countrywide.
Right.
However, if we're going to encourage somebody to come and set up shop in Calgary, we want to make sure that they are in compliance with our own policies. And so I would continue to support the policies that council has already approved.
In recent years, there is an increasing awareness in the international community about China's persecution of Falun Gong and organ pillaging of Falun Gong practitioners.
Yeah.
And it affects such a significant number of people, including some Calgary residents with Chinese heritage. So as a mayor, if you were elected, how could you use your influence to help those affected Calgarians?
Well, that was I've only just recently become aware of that situation, and I think it's a terrible, drastic thing that needs to be addressed. And I would certainly, it's not something that falls within a municipal responsibility, but from an influential perspective, I get it. I've listened to lots of videos and documentaries about it, and I do see that it's a huge problem. It's essentially genocide, and it is wrong. And I'm more than happy to talk with other elected officials, predominantly federal officials, to see what, if anything, can be done, including sanctions, if necessary, to impose on some of those practices, or even the country if necessary.
Thank you. In the west part of Calgary, there is a dense Chinese population. So many Chinese have concerns about the lack of sports facilities and schools and public transit. And in your platform, do you have anything specific to address those concerns?
So I certainly support public transit for a number of reasons. One, because it reduces the congestion in our roads. We do have what's called, I believe, the CIF fund, a council approved, $42 million a year is going specifically towards building new facilities. We do have a new facility going up in the Rocky Ridge area, yes, which is going to address at least some of the needs in the northwest sector. Mm-hmm. We have to balance our needs for citizens with the resources that we have. So while I support new facilities, and I know that we have a dedicated source of funds specifically for that purpose, mm-hmm, I believe in cautious optimism. Don't overpromise, overdeliver. Underpromise, overdeliver. So deliver what we can when we can.
So during the mayoral debate, the unity and effectiveness of the city council as a whole was being questioned. So what's your response towards that?
I would say if you speak to any member of council, I would say that they would speak favorably of me. Even people that are not like-minded with me, mm-hmm, I treat them with respect. And mm-hmm, I think respect is a two-way street. If you expect to be respected, then you have to show respect. And I've established that relationship with current members of council, and not just the current members of council, but many of the candidates that are already running for office. And so I think that I could create that cohesion amongst members of council, making sure that everyone is informed, providing closed notes version of what the reports are about. One of the biggest challenges on council right now is going through the reams and reams of material and trying to make sense of what's all in it. I mean, it's virtually impossible to read all of it unless you're a speed reader like me and you start from the minute that you get it. Even then, it's challenging to get through it all. It's a 100-hour-a-week job just to keep up with the agendas. And so closed notes version, just something that's a brief summary, even a very comprehensive summary that's like 6 or 7 or 10 pages long as opposed to 200 pages would be way less demanding on the individual councillors and give them a better understanding of the issue that's before them. But again, it comes down to mutual respect and understanding and working with people in a respectful manner that will lead to better cohesion amongst council members.
So I guess that will be one of the things you can bring to the table, yes, as you run.
Yeah, for it's an established thing for me. It's not something I have to think about. It's something I practice in my daily life.
Would you like to elaborate on your advantages of running the mayoral race?
I guess it comes down to what I say to children in schools. We are a sum of our experiences, and I've done so many things in my life in the private sector that I have a real good understanding of some of the decisions that I make and the implications that it'll have downstream. And so I'm not just making a high-level decision when I make a decision. I think about the global, the holistic approach and of our decisions. So I know that if I make a decision at the top, that it could impact a frontline worker, mm-hmm, and how it'll impact that frontline worker. And because I've done so many things from blue collar to white collar, I think I can connect well with all kinds of individuals. So I think my ability to understand individuals and not just listen, but understand what it is that people are trying to portray is certainly valuable. And obviously experience. It's such a critical thing if you want to run this city. If you want to become an alderman, you can do a lot of on-the-job training, and it's not as critical. But as the mayor of the city of Calgary, you have to be able to be pretty much the most knowledgeable member of council as far as council is concerned. Not necessarily the smartest guy in the room, because there's a lot of subject matter experts that work for the city that know way more about issues than any member of council will ever know, because they're dedicated their life towards those things. But as the leader of council, the mayor needs to be the most knowledgeable person in the room as far as elected officials go. And I think I bring that to the table.
What do you think your challenge would be?
I would say my biggest challenge right now is that I'm probably not seen as the most charismatic individual. I'm more I'm sorry. You know me maybe a little differently, but the general public doesn't see me that way because I'm not a glory seeker. I'm a get the job done kind of a guy. And my biggest challenge right now is for people to recognize that I am the kind of guy that will get the job done. And it's not about what can I do to make myself look better. I'm not about that. I'm about what can I do to make this city better for the citizens of Calgary. And that's what I've always done. Like my children said to me, they said, Dad, why are you even running? You know, you've got a really popular mayor. And I said, for the good of the city, because I don't think we're traveling down a path right now that will lead to long-term financial sustainability. We need to get our financial house back in order, and I think I'm the guy to do it. And they said, well, I guess that's as good a reason as any.
Finally, would you like to say something to Epoch Times readers?
Well, to all of you out there, all I can say is, as a fourth generation born and raised Western Canadian and a guy who's gone from digging ditches to running an electronics distribution company, I've been very honored and happy with everything I've done in my life. But of all the things I've ever done in my life, I don't think I've ever truly loved anything as much as I love doing what I do now. And so I would like the opportunity, with your support, to continue to do that exact thing, which is do the best that I can for you, the citizens of Calgary. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you for the last 12 years for your support in getting me reelected into the office that I'm in now.
Thank you.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.